Welcome to One Life Church, and thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. My name is Justin, and I'm one of the pastors here. We are a group of people committed to bringing the kingdom of Jesus to earth, one life at a time through intentional relationships. We aim to create environments that nurture family, authenticity, and a culture of investment. We believe that one life can make a difference, and we want to help you do just that. Now, whether you're exploring faith, or you're looking for a new church home, or you're seeking a deeper connection with Jesus, I want you to know that you are welcome here. Before we jump into the sermon today, I want to ask you to do two things for me. Number one, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you can follow along with all that God is doing in and through One Life Church. And number two, in the description below, you're going to find a link for onelifechurch.tv. This is where you can learn more about our church and how you can get involved. If you live in the Concord, North Carolina area, I want to invite you to join us in person on a Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. You can plan your visit at onelifechurch.tv. I pray that today's sermon is an encouragement to you as you follow Jesus today and in the days to come.
Church ministry. We are not the local church, but my heart and our ministry's heart is to go meet lost kids where they are, to introduce them to Jesus, and then to get them plugged into the local church where they can grow in their faith for the long haul. So thank you for being church partners, whether you knew it or not. Your generosity is making that happen in schools all throughout Harris County. And since we don't know each other very well, I'm going to give you some disclaimers as we go throughout and try to get to know each other throughout this message. Disclaimer number one, I am not a pastor. I am not a preacher, but I am a minister of the gospel. And just like many of you, and like Peter in the book of Acts, as he says, he is an unschooled, ordinary person who can't help but share about what he's seen and heard. That's me, and hopefully that's some of you. So maybe you're encouraged this morning that just like me, you too have a story to share, and I just get to share with you what I know to be true. For the past couple of years, my ministry of Young Life at the college has worked closely with Cabarrus County Young Life and people like Carter and Megan Wingfield. Hello. And we've kind of acted, the Cabarrus County Young Life and the college have kind of acted like a duplex that kind of shares a backyard, so to speak. So Cabarrus County does ministry to middle and high schools in the county, and I do ministry at the college. And this shared backyard, so to speak, is the college. So I go meet the college kids where they are, tell them about Jesus, build a community, and then together we send them to be Young Life leaders in local middle and high schools. Now, speaking of duplexes, I'm in the market for a 2 to 3 bedroom house. And I have had a really hard time finding one. So if you or anyone you know knows of a relatively affordable house in the Afton Village area, we can speak after this. I've moved around a lot, and I've lived in a lot of different duplexes, townhouses, and one of my favorites was in Mooresville. Heard that? Yeah, there we go. I was on staff in the Lake Norman area before I moved down here, and I did ministry at Lake Norman High School. And the townhouse, it was small. It wasn't much of an open concept. It was kind of more like a closed concept, walls everywhere, and not much room for hosting. So we thought it was a good idea to host a Young Life club in the detached garage of kind of the backyard of our house. And disclaimer number 2, Young Life Club is not what you think. Young Life Club is not necessarily an extracurricular club that you sign up for a membership for, and it is not necessarily like a nightclub, but somehow it kind of is a God-honoring version of a mix of the two. And so a Young Life Club, if you don't know, we like to meet kids where they are and use words and language and songs that they know to kind of compel them and engage them before at the end of the night, someone like me or a college student, maybe an adult like you, will get up and share the gospel through the Gospels in scripture, but in words in language that kids can understand. That's kind of what Young Life Club is. So we don't sing Christian songs in the way that maybe you do at church. We sing songs that kids know. And on this night, we were singing songs very profoundly meaningful songs like Chicken Fried and Don't Stop Believing and Party in the USA. And we're out in the garage. There's probably 20 to 30 high school kids. We're playing games. We're having a good time. It's 8 p.m. And I am singing Chicken Fried, and I start to hear yelling. And yelling is not that weird at Young Life Club, but this was not a 14-year-old boy yelling. This was a 45-year-old man yelling. And I look up mid-Chicken Fried, and there is an unknown man in my garage. And he's not singing, he is yelling. He's like, hey, keep it down, this is a townhome community. And I didn't quite know what to do. He was saying some words that I don't think are in the Gospels, but it was words that kids understand. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna deal with this. How about, sir, I'm so sorry, I apologize, and I explained what's going on. We closed the garage door, and I asked for 5 more minutes. Just, can we play one more game, sing one more song, we'll keep it down, and then we'll be out of here. He's like, all right, 5 more minutes, don't make me come back. I'm trying to put the grandkids to sleep, something like that. So we sing one more song. Now we're belting Miley Cyrus, The Climb. The garage is shut, and I'm here, this will not do it justice, but, and he starts, angry yelling. So I look at my 20 to 30 high school friends, and I mouth to them to go inside. And I get them inside, and then I deal with this man, and I apologize, and, we make amends. I tell him what's going on, why we're doing this. And he wasn't super happy, but I thought, hey, just a memorable, great Young Life Club that we'll ever forget. And then on to the next. Except for 1 month later, the day, it's January 4th, 2022, when I get an email from the HOA, my landlord gets an email from the HOA, and I get a call from my landlord, and they have some allegations against us, okay? Rightfully so, kind of. Here's what they say in this email. The highlighted part, they say we've received numerous complaints of children screaming in the garage until late in the evening. There's also couches and beds laying in the garage. Okay. I would like to shed some light on the situation. You can go to the next one. Number 1, the children are 14 to 17-year-olds. Children, yes. And screaming, maybe. We were singing songs until we were done by 8:25 p.m. Okay. Now, which might have passed some people's bedtimes, I understand, but it was not like a midnight party. Number 2, my garage, which you'll see here, has a couple chairs and couches where we hang out, but it's not like a place where someone is living. Okay? So I told my landlord the exact story that I just told you. I tell him the age of the kids. He knows I work for Young Life. He knows we're singing songs. He knows that we're playing games. And he's fine with it. He's like, don't worry, I have to take care of it. And he, the landlord, sends an email back to the HOA with this promise. He says, I'll be very short but polite with my written response to the management company. And I'm like, we're in the clear, right? Except for disclaimer number 3, the landlord was neither brief nor nice in his response. So I'm copying on this email, and I'll fly through it, but it is hilarious and absurd what you are about to read. This is about a third of it, okay? We're gonna make it interactive because you just heard the story, so you know what these answers should say, but he got the story twisted just a little bit. He says, first, at the very bottom, he believes that we exhibit all the good traits of character, polite, college-educated, professional Christian young women, to which I say, thank you. Moving right along, he starts to tell the story like this. We'll jump down to that first blank. He says that we brought some blank to the property before the blank were returned to their parents. Now, what age did I say I work with in this scenario? You can shout it out. That's right. He says 8 to 10-year-olds to the property before the young children were returned to their parents. And I'm like, okay, maybe he just misheard me. Whatever, we'll keep reading. He says a strange man approached us because the kids were singing blank and just being normal kids. What kinds of songs or things were we playing on this night, everybody? Any kinds of songs? Maybe pop songs would fit there. Survey says Christian hymns. Not what we were singing on this evening, but I'll take it. It might make us look better, okay? Moving right along. He decides to use a nickname for our neighbor. We don't know the neighbor. And he's like, okay, I'm going to give him a name. Now, I'm not going to let you guess on this one because you would never guess what nickname he gives our neighbor. Survey says, let's call him Mr. Aggressive Looney Bird. Not once, not twice, not thrice, but 8 plus times in this email, he decides to call our neighbor Mr. Aggressive Looney Bird. Now, we're going to fly through it, but he did not also use nice nor brief language. We'll move on to the next one. He calls him aggressive and unhinged. He calls him a Fruit Loop. He says it was beyond the pale of reasonable, normal behavior, and he goes on and on. My roommate and I are reading this email like, what is going on? And to make matters better, he signs off with this lovely, he is the little boy who strike through, old man Fruit Loop psycho who cries wolf. And we were like, that is not a great look for any of us. But he kept it nice and short and brief. Now, why in the world do I tell you that story? One, because it is funny. Two, because it paints a picture of the often misunderstood Young Life Club, that we are going to lost teenagers and singing songs that they know and moving into their world to tell them about Jesus. But most importantly, these are two non-examples of how to love your neighbor. Three, if you include me and my friends thinking love. And in the Christian world, our motto, our mantra that a lot of people know is to love your neighbor. We know that, right? But as human beings, we naturally aren't the best at doing that. And I'm sure this doesn't apply to One Life Church, but I was asked to preach on it. And so for this morning, we're just going to pretend like we haven't nailed this whole love your neighbor thing. I know I haven't, and I need to hear what you're reading this morning. So for the past few weeks, you've been in a series in 1 John. It is written by one of my favorite disciples, the one whom Jesus loved, is what he called himself. And his life was radically transformed by Jesus and by this gospel that we're about to discuss. So if you're joining for the first time, you don't know much about 1 John or this book, the Bible, or Jesus himself, this is actually a great place to jump in and start because it's kind of a recap section. It is not only a recap of 1 John, but it is a recap of this entire story. And we can never, even if you know it, grow old in hearing the central message of this gospel. So, disclaimer number 4 before we jump in. John and I don't want this to be behavior modification. We want this to be an encouraging reminder. I am not here to tell you anything new or made up. And I don't think John was trying to rewrite things that hadn't already been said. I think he and I this morning, our hope is to remind you of some simple truths that we often forget, and then to give you the courage to go and live like it's true. So if you've got your Bibles or you want to follow along, we'll be in 1 John chapter 3, verses 11 through 24, and it'll be up on the screen if you want to follow along. 1 John 3, verse 11 says this, "For this is the message that you've heard from the beginning, that we should love one another. We should not be like Cain, who was of the evil one and murdered his brother. And why did he murder him? Because his own deeds were evil and his brother's righteous. So don't be surprised, brothers, the world hates you. For we know that we have passed from death into life because we love the brothers. Whoever does not abide in love abides in death. Everyone who hates his brother is a murderer, and you know that no murderer has eternal life abiding in him. By this we know love, that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brothers. But if anyone has the world's goods and sees his brother in need, yet closes his heart against him, how does God's love abide in him? Little children, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth. By this we shall know that we are of the truth and reassure our hearts before him. For whenever our heart condemns us, God is greater than our heart. And he knows everything. Beloved, if our heart does not condemn us, we have confidence before God, and whatever we ask, we receive from him because we keep his commandments and do what pleases him. And this is his commandment, that we believe in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, and love one another, just as he commanded us. Whoever keeps his commandments abides in God, and God in him, and by this we know that he abides in us, by the Spirit whom he has given us." Now, there's a lot in there. I noticed some references to Cain and Abel, a brother who murdered his brother. I noticed some strong language, maybe even calling us murderers if we don't abide in love or something like that. And it's strong language because John is a strong person. He was changed by the love of Jesus, but wanted to make sure that we were taking seriously the serious things of God, and that we weren't taking so seriously the stuff that doesn't matter. So to keep it simple this morning, I think John is just trying to repaint the picture of a couple simple truths. And whenever I'm studying scripture, the first things I notice are words that are repeated. So words that I find repeated in this are love, abide, death, commandments, heart. And those are common words for John. If you read his other writings, he's always talking about that stuff. But as I sat with this passage for the past few weeks, the one word that really stuck out to me that's repeated is the word know, K-N-O-W. And he says it multiple times. In verse 11, he says, this is the message you've been told from the beginning. AKA, this is something you already know. I think we got those verses up here. In verse 14, he says, we know that we have passed from death to life. In verse 16, by this we know love, that he laid down his life for us. It also says that God knows everything. And in verse 24, we know that he abides in us by the Spirit whom he has given us. So, why do I say that? John is clearly writing to a group of people who have heard this gospel before. They know it, but do they really know it? And are they living it as if it is true? Now, judging based on the fact that I'm in a church in the Southeast, in the Bible Belt, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say many of you probably know this, what we're talking about this morning. But do you really know it? And if so, are you really living it? This might be a message that you've heard from the beginning, but no matter where you are in God's story or your own story, it never hurts to be reminded of it. And my friends who know me know that I love to rhyme. So to keep it simple and give you 3 words for this morning, they're going to rhyme. We're going to talk about old, told, and bold. Here's what that means, starting with old. If you've been around the church for a while, this is a message that you're probably familiar with, and it can start to get old. The further along we move in our Christian journey and in our faith, it is easy to think that we've graduated from elementary school of the faith, and we are moving on to the bigger and better things of the Christian life. We want something challenging, profound. We want to discover something new that wows us. We want to study things like theology, eschatology, pneumatology, and all those are great. And they do have a place in helping you figure out how this story fits into your own life. But sometimes we are quick to jump to the calculus and algebra of Christianity, and we want to solve for X in all these ways. That we forget to count to 10, like the 10 Commandments. Sometimes we even forget to count to 1, the first one. To love the Lord your God with all of your heart and soul and mind and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. I know as a professional Christian, someone who gets paid to share this with people, I find myself in that place all the time, where I am quick to jump to how I can teach this to someone, or how it applies to everyone else and not to me, or I'm going to jump into the depths of studying it and the history and the context and what it said to those people, instead of what it says to me. So one thing that helps me, maybe it's a tool for you too, is to make it personal. And as I sat with this passage, I made it personal by putting my name into it and changing some of the pronouns to be towards me. And so I'm going to read one verse that I put my name into, and I want you to put your name into it. And I want you to hear it as if it is written to you in a fresh, new way this morning. Verse 16. Lindsay, by this you know love, that he laid down his life for you. And you ought to lay down your life for the brothers of the family of God. By this you know that you are of the truth, and you can reassure your heart before him, for whenever your heart condemns you, Lindsay, God is greater than your heart. And he knows you because he knows everything. I don't know if that helps you or not, but a couple other ways when you're reading scripture, you could rewrite it in your own words. You could read different translations, but the point of what I'm saying today and not letting it get old is find ways to keep the plain thing the main thing and make it personal to you and not about everybody else. And if you do that, if we practice his love for us over and over again, it becomes a lot easier to do what you're told. By that I mean to do what he tells us to do, his commandments. In verse 11, John says, you have been told from the beginning to love one another. In verse 18, he says, let us not just love in word or in talk, but in deed and in truth. Meaning, let's not just know what he says, but let's do what he says. Let's not just talk about it, but be about it, as I'm sure you have heard before. A word that we said is repeated throughout and is really repeated throughout all of John's writings is the word commandments. And maybe your mind goes straight to the 10 commandments, but there's commandments all throughout this, guidelines. And there's really only 2 reasons that we would ever obey commandments. One of 2 reasons, either out of fear or out of love. You can obey someone and do what they tell you to do out of fear of consequence, being scared of punishment, and that's centered around behavior. Or you can obey out of love and trust for that person. You can obey because it's centered around a relationship and you trust that what they're asking or telling you to do is for the best. Commandments are a lot easier to follow if you know why you're being told to do them and if you trust the person who's telling you to do them. And our commander, our king, our friend, I hope, more than that, Jesus, is trustworthy and he is worth listening to because he has our best interest in mind. He loves us, he created us, and therefore he knows how all of this functions best. From relationships to sex, from family systems to systems of power in the world, the old system of your mind, your heart, your body. He is the one who designed it all and knows how it works. And so we can listen to him and how we should operate. But we don't have time to go through all the commandments and all that this says. So if we were to summarize it, all of the commandments, all of the things that he's told us to do, if you were to look at Jesus' life and summarize the whole thing, both John and Jesus did this. They summarized it by saying, to love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul and mind and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. That is the summary. It is simple and yet so profound and so hard to do. And that is the message we've been told from the beginning. And I know it can get old, but we can't move past it because it's true. And if it's true, it changes everything about everything. My favorite way of thinking about it is in John 2 when Mary, Jesus' mom, they're faced with a situation and Mary kind of thinks she knows what to do and then she looks at Jesus. And I think she had this moment where she remembers to trust him again. And she looks at everyone involved, the servants, the guests all around, and she says, do whatever he tells you to do. And I think she has this moment, even though she's the mom, and she probably has every right to tell him what to do. She says, I know Jesus and I trust him. Do whatever he tells you to do. And I don't know what kind of season of life you're in, what your life looks like right now, what questions you're asking, where you want God to show up. So I can't tell you specifically what to do. But I can tell you that I know Jesus, I trust him, and I would say the exact same thing. Whatever your situation is, do whatever he tells you to do. Listen and obey. Because he has your best interest at heart. And as John just said, he knows everything. So he knows exactly what to do. But one of the things, that's kind of the specific to you would be listening to him in the Spirit. The general thing that he's told all of us to do is to love one another. So we're going to get practical for like 5 seconds. And I want you to brainstorm right now one way that you can love your neighbor when you leave here today. It could be your literal neighbor next door. It could be the person sitting next to you. It could be someone who just pops into your head. But I want you to think of one practical way you can show up and love someone in your life as you leave here. Whoever just popped into your mind, grab it. Maybe you have to think about it for more than 5 seconds as you leave here. But I want you to notice, what is the immediate reason that you contradict it and don't want to do it? Is it pride? Is it cost, financial or time or resources? Does it take humbling yourself to do it? Whatever it is, maybe it's apologizing, maybe it's reconciling, maybe it involves giving words of affirmation to someone who needs to hear it. Maybe it involves giving generously above and beyond what you think is your means. And maybe it is being quiet. Maybe it's not arguing back or trying to be right. Whatever it is, notice what he is telling you to do and why you don't want to do it. And then do what you're told. How can you live out what you are told is that kind of love. Whatever comes to your mind, I hope you are bold in doing it. John was a bold man. He has a nickname, Son of Thunder. He often made bold requests of God and Jesus. He asked if he could make fire come down from heaven and destroy people at one point. Interesting. He asked if he could have a reserved VIP seat at God's right hand when he gets to heaven. Big, bold personality, and I love him for it. But that was before he learned what love looks like. That love was taking the worst seat in the house and setting the table for everybody else. So when I say bold, I don't mean be rude or unbothered or loud or a son of thunder. When I say bold, I mean being confident in your identity, knowing that you are beloved, and then being bold in keeping your commitment to go do whatever it is just came in your head that you said you were going to go do. In verses 19 through 21, which will be up there, John says, "We shall know that we are of the truth and reassure our heart before him. For whenever our heart condemns us, God is greater than our heart, and he knows everything. Beloved, if our heart doesn't condemn us, we have confidence before God." John's talking about being sure and confident in who you are and what you believe, confident in your belovedness, and being able to have confidence before God to ask for what you need and trust that he will give it to you. But I also love that John embedded some disclaimers of his own into this that we might have missed. When we're not feeling so bold, when you walk out of this room and all your emotions start going everywhere and you forget this, John gave a little disclaimer. In verse 13, he says, "Don't be surprised when the world hates you." I don't love that promise, but you're going to walk out these doors and you're going to feel it in a bunch of different ways. And I'm going to add to the list of don't be surprised as you leave here. Don't be surprised when you go love people in the way that Jesus does and asks us to, and you're not rewarded for it. Don't be surprised when you are not rewarded on this side of heaven with a trophy, and don't be surprised when you forget about this. Don't be surprised when you hurt someone else and they hurt you. Don't be surprised when this is hard to live out. Don't be surprised when it hurts. Don't be surprised when you forget it. But also, don't be surprised when you come back and you find the love is deeper and newer than you ever imagined. Every time you come back to it. Don't be surprised when after years of abiding and obeying, you actually see fruit in your life. Don't be surprised when your reward is great in heaven, and not only in heaven, but when you get to be part of bringing heaven to earth, that is the reward in and of itself. I'll be honest, this year I was pretty surprised. I feel like I was surprised that righteousness and doing the right thing didn't always give me praise and a pat on the back. I was surprised that I was following Jesus, and yet around every corner, it felt like there was another storm in my life and something that was going wrong. I was surprised that things didn't go according to my plan. But I shouldn't have been so surprised that by the end of it, after a very hard year, that I had grown in boldness and that I came out pruned and more fruitful. And I shouldn't have been surprised at the gifts and the daily bread that he provided along the way. And I shouldn't have been surprised that it might not have won in the short term, but it always wins in the long term. what it produced in me and around me is the reward. So don't be surprised when you leave here and you forget and when you mess up, and don't be surprised when your heart condemns you for whatever reason. John says when, not if your heart condemns you. Here's what you do. You go back to the message that you heard from the beginning. You go back to what you know. And if you've known this, but you've never known it, or maybe you have never even known this to be true, here's what you can leave here confidently, boldly knowing. I will remind you. You can leave knowing that you are a child of God. You can know the truth, and the truth will set you free. You can know that you have passed from death to life. You can know actual, real love by this, that he would lay down his life for you. You can know what to do, generally or specifically in your life, because you know the Spirit that abides in you. And you can know, maybe most of all, that you are already clean because of the word that he has spoken to you. And therefore, there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. So, your heart need not condemn you as you go. Then, if that is true, you can be bold. You can be bold in your belovedness. You can be bold in your returning to God when you mess up. You can be bold in your asks of him. You can be bold in listening to the Spirit and obeying. You can be bold in loving other people. And you can be bold in reassuring your heart and others' hearts of the truth that he did not withhold his Son, but freely gave himself for us. And will he not also give us all things for life and godliness? To wrap it up, that was all about you. And I want it to be personal. I want it to not get old. But once it's personal, it has to become communal. And once it's communal and the church, both local and global, it has to move external. It starts here, and then it moves here in the way that we love one another. And then it has to move outside of these walls, which I know you know, but are we doing it? And how are we doing it? Maybe it's in the Sabbath parties or loving your actual neighbor. But Jesus told us the keys to the kingdom, and then he gave them to us. He said, they will know you are my disciples by the way that you love one another. That's the key. But there's one other key that I think all of this is centered around that I cannot let you leave without telling you. Maybe you know it, but the key to all of this is whether or not your heart is open or closed to receive it. In verse 17, John says, if anyone has the world's goods and sees his brother in need, yet closes his heart against him, how does God's love abide in him? And Jesus had all the goods in the world. He saw us in need and didn't close his heart against us, but he opened it and didn't keep us out. To go a step further, if you want to abide in God's love, how can you abide in it unless you open it up? Open up your heart and let it come in. So, I want to give you a chance to respond, and I don't mean just first-time altar call responses. I mean in every day, every hour, we have to respond to this in some way as we go. And in Revelation, it says that he stands at the door and knocks. But you get to choose how you answer. So today, some of you might be looking through the peephole of the door, just checking out who Jesus is, and watching him and taking in this book, trying to figure out if he's somebody that you want to let in. And that is totally fine. Please keep taking a look at him. Some of you might have realized you subtly and accidentally put a do not disturb sign on your door. And maybe you know him and you love him, but your life has been avoiding Jesus. What would it look like to take the sign off? Maybe some of you just unlock the door. You don't open it, but you're just like, if you want to come in, I won't stop. Maybe some of you crack the door open. You're like, I'm here, I'm listening. And maybe some of you fling the door wide open. Again, for the first time or the 100th time or the 1000th time, you let him back in to tell you that he loves you and that you want to do what you're told and that you will be bold in doing it with him. All of this that we're talking about is because one life changed the world 2,000 years ago. And now one life is changing the world here, one life at a time. I love that part. That's an end. But I hope it never grows old. Both the one life that died 2,000 years ago, or getting to do it together as one life, or doing it one life at a time. I'm going to throw some questions up on the screen, and I also love that you guys talk about it in real time before you leave. So here are the questions I want you to consider before you go. What has gotten old? What do you just need to be reminded of this morning? Where do you need to do what you're told? Is there a commandment or even just the act of listening that you need to do? And what would change in your life if you were bold, either in knowing your belovedness or going and loving other people?